Welcome back for another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find, those really, really tough comic books, those things you just don't see at your LCS every week. You got to do some research, get lucky in a lot of cases to track down some of these tough to find, variants in comic books that, again, you just don't see all the time. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Come check out our Discord. We're trying to build it out a little bit more. We're adding a little pickup section so everybody can show off all their pickups. Maybe a few other rooms and things like that where we can get some conversations started with you guys. And if you haven't given Whatnot a shot, now's your chance to give it a try. For your first-time users, you'll get a free $15 on me to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. It's just sign up first time buy, $15 on me. Not only will you help the channel, but you'll get yourself something else free along with it. So with that all said, I promised you like a week or so ago when I posted on IG, I saw a Popeye book sell, that it's about time we get to talking about these Popeye books. So that's what we're going to do this week. So just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. That's right, Popeye. You wouldn't expect it, but some of these books are not only really, really tough to find, but they're also really cool. Like, there's some really nice covers in this run. They're unique. They're different. They went to a lot of different artists and a lot of different art types to do a lot of these covers that has nothing to do with the guts inside the book. It just happens to be they decided to do this on these Popeye classics, which they're basically reprints. They're reprinting the original Popeye comics and then slapping some new covers on these 1 in 10 incentives. So you could imagine not many of these are going to have a lot of copies out there. I can't give you numbers on that. I tried even going through with the estimates, going to Comic-Con. Only the first like 2 issues of the Popeye Classics showed up, and they were only selling like 5 and 3,000. So we're talking about 300, maybe 500 of these 1 in 10s, and then significantly less as the run goes on, as it went, I believe, 65 issues. So if they dropped off of the Comic-Con top 300 after the first 2 issues, who knows what those last few issues were pumping out at that time. So I'm not even going to bother giving you estimated print run numbers. We're just going to run through it and look at what's out there, check the census, etc. So with that all said, our first one is a popular one. I believe this is probably the one that started this Popeye craze. And yeah, if you haven't been around long enough, a few years ago, there was a craze for these Popeye incentive books. There was just people started talking about them, the people started hunting them, and there was a fervor that was created based off of this cover, a zombified Popeye by Len Danovich. Again, this is a 1 in 10. This was December 2017. So like I said, this is almost 7 years ago now. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago because I remember when this happened. I remembered when everybody was talking about these Popeye books. But yeah, this one kind of got everybody looking at these things. And these IDW reprints, this one being that it was like a fire starter of a sort, you could imagine. There are more in the census than you have for some of the others. So yes, there are 56 copies of this particular one in the census, with 51 of them being 9/8s, 3 9/6s, and it looks like a 9/4 and a 9/0. And that's it. I mean, really, only 56 copies it's a lot for this, but overall, it's really not that much when you think about it. Because like I said, this book, it was not a secret. This book was, again, all that anybody could talk about for a while. So people were hunting, people were looking. And if we only got 56 graded copies, I don't know how many more are out there. I mean, there'll be some wrong because not everybody grades their books. But, just saying. With that said, this book is still pretty well known, so I'm not surprised that it actually still does sell. So you can see here's 5 example sales. We've got some raw selling with best offers on $580, $306, plus at auction with 15 bids. 250, one sold raw. 10 bids, got another one for 217.35, and that was all the way back in March. So again, consistently, when this thing comes up, people are looking and people will be willing to pay. And even a 9.4 there, you can see sold for $350. So it is not a cheap book either. So keep that in mind too if you want to go shopping for one. It's not gonna You're not gonna find this probably at a discount anywhere. But hey, you never know. Never know what you might find if you go out there digging. But if you wanted to go online to see what you could buy, when I did the deck up, and I just did it over this past weekend, so this information is only maybe a day or two stale. I'd say maybe about a day. I only found two. So when I was looking for this one, I found two. They were both 9.8s. One, blue label CGC 9.8 that wants a healthy $825, while there is a yellow label CBCS 9.8 that is also signed, so it's a signature series. Let's look at for $1,600. Yeah, so not a cheap book. Now, as I've been talking about this Popeye series, they did these 1 in 10 incentives for a good stretch of the run. They didn't do it at the start. So I mentioned at the beginning that, issue 1 and issue 2, they showed up on Comic-Con with some estimated print run numbers and then dropped off. But they weren't doing 1 in 10s even then. They didn't start the 1 in 10s, I don't think, until issue like 13 or something like that. So there's only about 50 or so of these. Maybe a little under, but about 50 or so of these variants out there. We could look at all of them realistically, and maybe we will at some point. But for today, we're going to do a dozen. I'm going to start at the end here with 65, do the last 5, and then pick out some randos to show you. And then we can come back to this topic again, because like I said, there's a lot of really cool covers and interesting stuff that we can look at with this run. So we can come back to this, a little bit. We'll give it a break. But today, we're going to do about a dozen, and we're going to go backwards from here. So 65, and then we're going to go back to 64 here. Again, classic comics. Different vibe than that zombie, right? They kind of jump around all over the place with some of the art styles and some of the artists they get. I mean, they've got artists that look more like fine art artists going to skateboard deck artists. A lot of different options, a lot of different flavors of art on these 1 in 10 incentives. So with this one, which gives me almost like a 60s, 70s kind of vibe, like this is going to be a cover of Superfly, but it's Popeye. This Derek Ballard cover was, again, a 1 in 10, and this was November 2017. We're going backwards. So this one actually doesn't have any copies in the CGC census, so nobody's bothered to grade this particular one. So you got a really nice copy, you could be the first, potentially. And there has been a recent buyer, as one did sell for $50 just on May 27th. So it's only like a week ago. So only about a week ago, somebody bought one for $50. Not nearly as much as that 65 with the zombie Popeye and olive oil, but still $50 ain't too bad for 1 in 10. And if you wanted to go shopping, actually, you got some options for this one. I did find 4. I found it going anywhere from $40 to $100 to $150 to $200. All obviously raw, because there's none in the census. So up to you. You got a lot of different levels you can play at. Granted, I mean, you have to zoom in to see the grades on these, see if any of these are damaged or whatnot. But hey, take a shot if you want. Up next, we go from a completely different vibe. So we had zombies. Now we had like a 70s exploitation film movie poster kind of vibe. At least that it looks like to me. To this, which almost looks like some sort of surrealist type art. Like this looks like a Dali portrait just thrown in there. And this is an Aaron Alfrey cover for issue number 63. This one was from October of 2017. Again, look at all the craziness going on. You got Popeye, you got a ship, you got a lot of sea monsters and creatures and just ghouls and skulls and eyeballs and all sorts of weird. Again, feels like a Dali painting. This feels like something surreal to me. But with that, we do have a census on this one. A huge census of 1. Yes, there is a 9.8 in there. A single 9.8, but a 9.8 nonetheless. 1 in the census for this particular issue 63. Recently, we've had 2 sales of this book. One at auction that went for $39, and another buy now for $80. Both in March, so it's been a while, but both in March. And if you wanted to go buy one of these, you know, shopping to see what this one will run you now, well, those sales in March are the last that we had. And right now, the cupboards are bare. So we don't got any out there for you. But again, remember, this is a snapshot in time. Me doing this list today on June 4th. This could be completely different come July 4th. Like the whole market could be different of what's available, what's sold. So just remember that. It is a moment in time, but it's still kind of fun to take a look at some of this stuff to see what we have on the market, what it's selling for, etc., just to get a sense of how tough some of these books could be. So that was 63. I told you we're going backwards off the last 5, so we still have 2 more going backwards. We're going to 62, which has another. This has like a crazy Ren and Stimpy, like Courage the Cowardly Dog kind of Nickelodeon vibe to me on this one. And this is a Rich Powell cover that was done in September of 2017. And what's kind of interesting and kind of nice is that they actually put the variant cover artist's name right there on the front. So that's why I was saying it even before my deck revealed the name. You can see it right at the top there that it tells you who the the comic who did the comic and the variant cover. So I think that was kind of fun. I think that's kind of cool that they did that. It gives the artist some credit because sometimes it's tough. It's tough figuring out who the artist is unless you recognize an artist's signature. A lot of times you got to go inside the book or you got to find out some database or somewhere else who actually did some of these covers. So it's helpful. Thank you, IDW, for putting it right there on the cover for us. With that, this Ren and Stimpy style one, it's got none in the CGC census. So, like, what was it, 64? Nobody subbed it yet. That said, we did have a pair of sales, 40 and 50 bucks. So, also, like that 64, it's not too expensive, but yeah, also not free. It ain't super cheap. So, 40, 50 bucks ain't too bad for a 1 in 10. And if you wanted to buy one, I did spot one. And it's looking for 40 bucks out there in the market, and 4 other people are watching it. So again, these are known. People are watching these. People are aware of these. It's had its time in the sun, like once or twice. These have come back around. But really, it was that original run back in like 2017, 2018, where there was a lot of hoopla around these Popeye variants. People were trying to finish out sets and back in the old G Plus days. So yeah, good times. Good times. All right, but our last issue that we're going backwards before I start jumping around and give you some random picks that I personally like, we're going to go to issue 61. So with issue 61, we have yet even another kind of vibe here, which is, I don't know what I would call this one. This one's, I don't want to say simplistic, but it is a little bit, but it is also kind of storytelling a bit, where we've got some panels and it's kind of unique, and it's given us like different, like Popeye coming out of the spinach can. It's kind of strange. So I don't even know what I would call this one. If you know what you want to call it, put it in the comments down below. It's like issue 61 is this. I'm not an art historian. I did take an art history class or 2 in college, but not an art historian. I don't remember all the different genres and ages and what have you. So I'm just going off the fly here, whatever pops in my brain as I'm looking at these. With that said, issue 61. Also, I'm getting cereal box vibes. Like, what's with that octopus? It looks like blueberry. But this is Sander Etema. I don't know, 1 in 10. August of 2017 on this one. And just like our last one, also none in the CGC census. So nobody graded this particular one. We did have a single sale the last 3 months, and it was for 40 bucks. So again, that seems to be like the floor for a lot of these. So far. We'll see as we go on through the list. But so far, 40 has kind of been the lowest sale. And as far as available copies go, I do remember seeing a couple listed for 40 for some other books. But here, 40 is also the low on the options available. And I did find another 4 for this particular book, looking for 40, 50, 125, and then a hefty $300 ask. I don't know. I mean, eventually that 300 bucks will probably be the only one that's out there on the market. And that 125 is even listed as very fine and near mint. So I don't know. Once that 40 and 50, those 40 and $50 copies are gone, this could start reaching up a little bit higher if people start, if people are willing to pay more than that. And those higher prices become more attractive when there aren't much cheaper copies available. Just saying. All right, there we go. Those were the final 5. There are a couple more that near that era and that kind of end of the run that are really cool as well. We'll touch on one or two maybe here on the list and get back to these, like I said, in a little bit while. Like we'll get back maybe a month or so and do a follow up or two, because we could probably break this down into four episodes and cover them all. Because like I said, I'm doing I think a dozen today or thereabouts. With that said, the reason why I decided to come back to this list and come back to this topic was because of this book. And this is issue 30, which is a Steve Mannion cover. I've noticed I became more aware of his art through Kickstarter, actually, like Fearless Dawn. I remember looking at that Fearless Dawn Kickstarter and then that issue being available in stores and everything. And yeah, he's done some really cool covers. I like his art. I like the style. It's very detailed. It's very stylized and unique. And it actually works pretty well on a Popeye cover. You got, what's his name? Bluto. I was going to say Brutus. I was like, it's not Brutus. It's not Bruno. It's Bluto. So Bluto and Popeye getting ready to throw down, olive oil out front. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And I love that there's a background. Like there's actually, it sets a stage. You got Wimpy up in the window. You got bricks. You got, stones on the street. You got textures. You got a feel. It gives you a sense of what you're looking at. So I do dig this. But this is also a 1 in 10. This was way back in January 2015 on this one. So Steve Mannion cover. You'll see in a second why we decided to go to this. In the sense, it's not a ton. There's only 8. We got 6 9/8, a 9/6, and a 9/4, and that's it. And the reason why I decided to do this topic is because one did sell May 24th. So again, it's a little over a week ago. So I'm a little delayed in actually running this this deck. I was planning to do it last week. I just didn't have enough time. But $420 with 8 bids, $420 for this 1 in 10 incentive. And did before that, back in March, 13 bids got a different copy up to $202.50. So neither of those are cheap, but $420 raw for a Popeye book. And it wasn't the zombie one that everybody was talking about. So keep that in mind too. It goes beyond just the hoop, the hoopla created around that zombie book when it was being talked up. $420. And if you wanted to go buy one to see if you're willing to go, shell out 400 plus, well, good luck, because right now there ain't nothing out there. So stores are empty. There's nothing on the shelves for you. With that, let's take a look at another issue. Again, I'm going to hop around now. We're not going in any sort of order. We're going to pop around and do some different stuff. Most of these covers have had that classic cover at the bottom, except this one. This one doesn't have that classic cover on the 1 in 10. This is Mona Olive Oil. So obviously, it's doing a Mona Lisa kind of thing. This is a Jim Sergey, I guess, May 2016 on this one. 1 in 10 incentive. Interesting, different. But like I said, it's unique to me in that it doesn't have that that classic comics border at the bottom. In the CG census, there are only 2. Only 2 copies, both 9/8, but only 2 in the census for this one. And none have sold recently. So we don't know what the market's willing to pay. But if you wanted to go shopping for one, I did find you 2 copies of this issue 46. Sorry, if I didn't mention that, this is issue 46. So it's, I know, like I said, going back and forth, hopping around. So issue 46, and you can see they haven't sold recently, but the 2 copies that are out there are not cheap. One's listed for $200 raw, and one's listed with a 9/8 looking for $300. One of those 2 9/8s is on sale, and it's looking for $300. We'll see if anybody decides to bite. But there we go. It's again a lot of different vibes, a lot of different feelings. Yes, this does look like classic Popeye, but you mix in a nice little homage to Mona Lisa. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. Now this next one, this is just like skateboard deck just come to life. Like this is just awesome. I don't know. I just really dig this one. This Popeye cover here by Pedro Vargas. So this one is from October of 2013. This one goes all the way back to issue 15. So not the first, but early on in the run, I believe. Because like I said, I think the first one was 13, but I'm just going off of memory. But I think 13 was the first one of these. But 15 was pretty early for these 1 in 10 incentives. And like I said, much different vibe on some of the art here. And this one, only 3 in the census. We've got 2 9/8s and a 9/4 for 3 total. One of these did happen to sell within the last 3 months, and it's over 80 bucks. So not bad. 80 bucks for this. I dig this one. I kind of want one. But when I went looking to try to buy one, even before I decided to film this, yep, you guessed it. I couldn't find any. So none out there. But I'll be keeping my eye out for this one. Like I said, I think it's pretty cool. And then completely changing gears from issue 15 here. Again, look at this style. Look at the style of the art. Like I said, it's like skateboard, skate punk style. And then we go to this, which has more of a classic art kind of feel, maybe even a postcard. I don't know. I'm also getting a little hint of some Japanese anime, just the way that her face is drawn. But this is Luna Liang, if I'm saying that properly. 1 in 10 from July 2015 on this issue. A completely different vibe. Like I said, completely different. A few more in the census for this one, which was kind of surprising. With 6, we got 2 9/8s, 2 9/6s, a 9/4, and a 9/0. But we only had one sale for this issue 36. I'm sorry if I skipped the number, but issue 36 sold for almost 200 bucks. So once again, people are willing to pay for some of these. These can command some dollars. And speaking of commanding dollars, I did find a few available. I found 3, and those 3 are looking for 200 bucks at auction. That's going to end this Sunday. So we'll see what happens with that one. There's a buy it now out there for 350, and there's a 9/6. One of those 9/6s is looking for 500 bucks, basically 499. So once again, not cheap, not cheap, but it's a pretty awesome cover. It's pretty awesome olive oil. Like I said, a lot of these are really cool. In my opinion, I think these are really cool covers on a lot of these. Not everyone's a winner. Like some of these are just like, okay, it's okay. And we'll get to some of those later. But for now, I picked some of my favorites. Pick some of the ones that kind of jump out at me, are pretty striking. Once again, I'm going to shift gears and go to an artist who I always associate with Batman. Nightfall Batman covers is what I think of when I think of the name Kelly Jones, but does a bit more. I mean, a lot of things lean more towards the horror end of things, and adding this black and white to this Popeye gives this almost like a classic horror kind of vibe to it. I mean, you got those the goons in the background looking more menacing than they kind of do in the cartoons. I mean, they've got those big, yeah. Anyway, Kelly Jones, pretty awesome Popeye cover here. So you add this one into the pile, a 1 in 10. This is from September of 2015. This is for issue 41, by the way. Sorry if I didn't say the number. Got to remember to give you guys the numbers. But issue 41, this one has all of 15 copies in the census, and all of them are 9/8. So I'm not the only one who thinks this is a striking cover, as 15 people graded this one, and they all got 9/8 out of it. Out of those 15, 2 of them are signature series, and one of them, actually, this is a CBCS signature series that sold. But I was going to say one of those signature series sold, but they didn't. This is a CBCS copy. Yeah, we forget about that sometimes. There are other grading companies beyond CGC, but CGC is the easiest. It's the most popular, and I like the census. It's a lot easier to manage than the CBCS population report. It was a bit of a headache when I first tried to use it. I don't know if it's gotten any better, but there's still wasn't that much info in it when I was trying to find books in there, and finding them was tough. Like the way they labeled them was a lot of different. They didn't reconcile really well. I don't know. Maybe it's gotten better. Tell me if it's gotten better. But for now, I'm still sticking with the CGC census. Now, with that, best offer on 175 for this 9/6 signature series book. And if you wanted to get one, I got 4 for you. But they are all very, very expensive. 2 raw copies, basically looking for 400 bucks each. And then we got a signature series 9/8 looking for 600 bucks, as well as a blue label 9/8 looking for 600 bucks. So you're not even paying any more for that signature. 600 bucks for 9/8, 400 bucks for raw is what the market is asking for right now. Quite a bit. It's quite a bit of money. But it's up to you. Nobody's telling you that that's what the price is or what you should pay for it. It's your call. I'm just trying to tell you what the market is paying and what they're asking. And you make your own decisions with your wallet. Don't let anybody else spend your money for you. With that said, next book, issue 56. So we're going back closer to the end. Again, remember the end was 65. So close to the end, we got this one. We got some sirens there in the water. Feels more of a classic-y kind of Popeye feel. It's not really out of bounds, weird or strange, but Steve Purcell gave us this one in March of 2017. Like I said, also 1 in 10 on this issue 56. All of one copy in the census, and it only got a 9.2. So you might be able to find that first 9.8. So we got a 9.2 out there. And yeah, nobody's bought one of these recently. So none sold the last 3 months. And if you wanted to buy one, nobody bought one either. So while it might not be the most unique of all the covers here, it's not out there. So you know where this was going to end up when we do the rundown here at the end, because we only got one book left, and then we'll find out which ones were hard to find and which ones were ghosts. But changing things up completely, we've got this one. So kind of a gender swapped Popeye here, I guess, by Jay Fosgit, if I'm saying his name right. This one is for issue 45, April 2016, 1 in 10. This is definitely a different flavor of Popeye than you're used to. And with that said, there are 6 in the census, all 9/8, but a half dozen in that CGC census for this book. And we did have one sale. We had one sale the last 3 months, 3 bids at auction, kicked this thing up to $150. So this did not sell cheap. So 1 in 10, remember, 1 in 10. But yeah, 3 bids, $150 plus $10 shipping. And if you want to buy one right now, well, I'm afraid you're out of luck, because there's none out there when I went looking. So, with that said, our inaugural Popeye edition of Chasing Ghosts, because like I said, there's a lot more of these out there. There's a lot more that we can cover, a lot more we can talk about. There's some cool psychedelic kind of covers, ones that are almost like mosaic pieces put together. Like I mentioned, a lot of different flavors and a lot of different styles of art on these covers. But for our first dozen, these 6, including the one that kicked off all the interest, that zombie cover, are all hard to find, because there are multiple copies available right now if you wanted to go shopping. However, the other 6 that we talked about all have either one or none on the market, and that is the criteria we've come to decide we're calling ghosts on this show. So if there's one or none on the market, we're going to call them ghosts, and that goes for all 6 you see here, including the last 2 we talked about. One of my favorites there down at number 15, that Mannion, which got me deciding to do this as a show. That sold for $420, and then a couple others with that was that issue 62 and 63. Yeah. So, one or none. And yeah, those will be our ghosts. So get out there and get chasing ghosts. See what you can find. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this show. Hopefully you're enjoying it, as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like I said, check out the Discord. If you haven't tried Whatnot, give it a try. Take that free $15 on me. And yeah, come back tomorrow. We have the tax show, and we'll be talking some new releases, some reviews, as well as covering the next wave in our G.I. Joe toys. So we're going to tier list the 1985 Wave 4 G.I. Joe figures. So with Scarlet coming out, it seems like a good time to go back to that list of Joe toys. So get your Scarlet number 1s, give it a read. We're going to talk about it on the show and tier list some toys, as well as cover some other fun stuff. And with that all said, I'll see y'all later with some more content. All right.